Welcome to week 3. We're going to get started going through what we're doing this week and the fold out thing in just a moment. But first, Journey has kindly volunteered to let me use her as an example with this check mark of achievements, which I showed people a little bit, but not incredibly successfully last time. So let's do a quick one that works. So most of the time when you turn in homework codes, then I will be good about oops, actually, Journey, you don't have a code name. So I'm just going to make one real quick and you can tell me what it is later and I will change it. So now if I do a reset, there's something called Shirley, not Journey. Everyone has one study session for free because week 1, then I didn't tell everyone you needed one. So we're going to go through right now and say if we go for the one I just made, then of course there's no homework done. But since she has turned in some codes, I will look at them and say that the first 2, she got 8 out of 10 or more. So I'll check them off as true. And then if we reload this, and you might need to do what's called a hard refresh. If you've heard of your browser cache, to save time, your web browser will not reload things that it's recently dealt with because it thinks it hasn't changed, right? I don't need to load that again. So depending on which type of computer you have, it's usually Command-Shift-R or Control-Shift-R or Option something, but anyway. So I'm going to go with Control-Shift-R, and then when I look at Journey again and hit go, when I go down, then there's 2 homeworks checked off. And those I will be good about checking off as you turn them in by email because they're not terribly exciting. And we've already had our little get together of, yay, you did this, hooray for you. The other things I tend to only check off if you tell me. So I think Journey has asked a question during class already. Is that true?
Yes.
Yes, so I will check that off here. And then next time we load, then that one is checked off. But it's not automatic. You have to let me know to do these things. So one reason to stop by the study session or just a quick little 3 to 5 minute check-in with me in Zoom sometime during the week is we can go through all your achievements and make sure you're caught up on things. So I am sure there are lots of people that need to have things checked off. I'm not going to start class with that for everybody, but just a reminder, that's how we do things. You don't get to actually input anything here. You just have to let me know and I do it behind the scenes. If you are also a teacher, you might be interested in what's happening behind the scenes that needs that hard refresh. If you do Control-U on most web browsers, it tells you the behind the scenes content. And you can say, oh, what is this person's gradebook? So in an old style gradebook, I have this big spreadsheet. I have to go down all of your names and then scroll across and keep, it's a mess to find where this thing is to enter your homework or so on. Whereas everything for this student is all in one page. I can see it without scrolling, and I just take things that are false and change them to true. And then it puts check marks on there. So it's kind of annoying because you have so many more things to check off than a traditional style of grading, but it's also just easier to check off any individual thing. Okay, yay, thank you, Journey, for that. Do the achievements affect your grade? Yes, so if you click on this toggle letter grade explanation, you need 30 or more to get a plus after your letter. You need at least 14 or you will get a minus. So get at least 14, which isn't hard. And then your letter grade is based on your percentage for the final, and then your homeworks and study sessions. And for the homeworks, if you don't want to do a homework, just have one color with 3 or more achievements in it. So once you get 3 pinks, you can skip a homework. If you also get 3 oranges or 3 yellows, 3 greens is easy, then you can skip more homeworks. But it's mostly about the plus or minus. And that again is because it's more useful to people in your future. If it's just based on points, then what is a B plus? Does that mean that you missed a few points on the final because you were tired that day? Does it mean you started slow in the beginning of the term and then worked crazy at the end of the term and it all came out to be a B plus or so on? Whereas this way people know B plus means someone that had a lot of class participation and did respectably on the final, as to a B minus, which is someone that got the same final grade but didn't participate much. Maybe they were busy, maybe this was just a review class for them and they didn't need to do much, whatever. But it communicates more in the future, which is why people are getting on this bandwagon. So there we go. Other questions? I will keep asking you other questions, but for now, while we're recording, let's go through the rest of the intro for the week. Things are a little different now. If we look at the textbook for this week, let me see if I can change which window I am showing you smoothly. Everyone see our table of contents now, more or less? So chapter 4, formulas and equations, is too big. There's just all sorts of stuff. Yes, Delcy, that does. They stick into chapter 4, even though it's not really related. It really should be at least 2 different topics, if not more. So we are not going to try and do chapter 3 in 1 week and chapter 4 in the next week, because chapter 3 is a bunch of stuff that isn't that difficult. And then chapter 4 is too much different kinds of things. So this week we're going to go through all of chapter 3 and then also do a little bit of chapter 4. So that's what this explains here. This week we work from 2 textbook chapters. Operations with integers, chapter 3 has order of operations, which we definitely need to talk about, and negative numbers, which to some extent we need to talk about. The 4th chapter has formulas and equations. It's a mishmash of stuff. And this week we're going to do 2 parts, plugging numbers into equations and solving one-step equations. And as you've been very capable at so far, my job today is to try and tell you all the things that are tricky or that maybe you could have learned in the past, but no one taught you, or math teachers that don't do a good job confuse their students about, and so on, and get this all the tricky stuff cleared up. And then you on your own and in the study sessions and asking me help questions and so on, will go through it in more detail on your own. Everything else below in the foldout looks just the same for every section in the book. Then here is where in my lecture notes I will be talking about things, or where might help you more if the book's explanations are not sufficient. Do as much self-guided homework as you need. If this is too much for a topic, then it gets boring. Just try like the last problem at the end, because that might be the tricky one, and then move on. If you need more practice than this, then go over to these things and see where there's an infinite number of randomly generated problems and work on those a little more too. Once you're feeling pretty good, then do the work that'll grade you. There's again only 10 problems to write out. And then we'll have 3 different codes again to turn in this week, where you're trying to do work, hopefully with other people, although that's not required. And then send me the codes. The first 2, I am sure will work fine. The third one, I'm crossing my fingers, and if you hate it, then just stop and tell me you hate it. So these 2 are Math 20 review topics. We're talking about the justice fractions and ratios, which is basically one-step equations and proportions. It's things that hopefully you've seen before, since Math 20 was a prereq. I'm going to explain it today in detail. I'm not too worried about these for anyone getting them done. This one, on the other hand, is health formulas. This is taken from when I teach Math 25, but I'm not going to teach you the Math 25 things about metabolism. I don't really think I need to. If I go up to metabolism, then there's some heart rate formulas. You plug in people's age, multiply it by a number, 221 minus that, and you get your maximum safe heart rate. All you're doing is plugging something into a formula. Then you're going to take it and multiply it by either 0.5 or 0.85 to get two other numbers. And then when you go down a little bit, you have formulas where, again, you plug in the weight and the height and the age, and then maybe you multiply the answer by something else. So hopefully this is okay. And if reading through it is not good enough, then just stop. It's not your job to teach yourself Math 25. But I think this is a somewhat interesting and pretty trivial way to just show me that, yes, you can plug something into equations. Remember that at the top of every page, we have this wonderful calculator that can handle parentheses. So if you don't happen to own a nice, friendly calculator and you want to do these formulas, then use the calculator provided at the top of the page. You can say, oh, let's do number 14. He's 35 years old, 150 pounds. The only tricky part is 5'8". I have to change into inches. So I'll go 5 times 12 is 60, 68 inches. And then I'll say, well, the weight was which one? That was 150. It's 4.55. The height was the 68. And then his age was 35. That's a minus. And then the ending changes for men and women. So he has a minus 161. And we get our answer. So if you can't do this smoothly on your calculator, then just use the one like I did. All you're having to do is plug things in the formula. The only hard part was remembering how to get from a combination of feet and inches into just inches. So if that's not review for you, if this sounds scary, then don't worry about it. Just communicate with me that you're skipping that code. But I'm thinking for most people, this will just take only a few minutes and be a good way to show off and maybe feel good yourself that you took this Math 25 topic and taught it to yourself, and ha ha ha, look how good you are. Okay, so back to our drop down. Okay. And then the study skills had one last section. You've done time management and doings. Hopefully you've read that the past 2 weeks. So now we're on the mindset section, and I'll be done asking you to read through my study skills. Okay, other than the fact that I have to teach you lots of math, questions about what we're doing this week? Okay. A reminder, someone sent me, yes, Thursday, if you go to our calendar, the people that wanted to meet at 9:45 switched to 9. So you can still show up at 9:45. There'll be people there, but it just worked better to do that. And the Monday, Wednesday, we switched to 5. Somebody else asked about turning things in late. Yes, the only thing that matters for on time is that if you turn in 8 sets of homework on time, you get an achievement about it. So don't fall behind. That makes any math class 10 times harder. But if you haven't turned in enough stuff, that's okay. You're not failing. You're just possibly missing one achievement out of many. Good questions. Anything else? I had a homework question, first of all. A couple actually. One is with the things you are writing neatly, is there anyone that you don't tell me now, but is there anyone that minds if I yes, any type of code name works in chat. If you haven't given me a code name, email me one, send me a direct message in Zoom chat, just make up a code name and then I can start recording your things. Is there anyone that minds if I share your step-by-step answers? So if you do, then let me know in chat, send me an email, something like that. But otherwise, I'm just going to make a public drive on my Google Drive and dump all of your graded things there. Since you know the answers anyway, they're all odd numbers back of the book, then I think it will help each other to see how other students have written things down. And if you want, I can certainly just erase your name from the top of the paper if you're someone that put your name on the paper. So feel free to say, you can share my thing, but take my name off it first, if that makes you feel better. But I want to do that. And also just a heads up that I'm not going to ask you to turn in 10 neat problems every week. In the beginning, I want to make sure you all can do that and have good habits. And especially this week, as we're getting to proportions, it's going to be important. But that's not going to be a hoop you have to jump through forever. Okay, let's get to things. So I'm just going to go down my list here. My job in the next hour is to go through all of these topics. And as always, this is a kind of review, quicker pace because you're supposed to have had Math 20. On the other hand, I know that just because I say that doesn't mean this is fast and fluent for everybody, especially if one of your old math teachers was neglectful in some topic. So I will continue whenever you say, wait, do more of that or slow down, to do things as slow as possible. And encouragement that it's never one student that wants that. So if you want me to, don't feel like you are slowing down the class. There's always at least one other person that's very happy you were brave and told me to do another problem or to slow down or something. Okay, let me get my Jamboard up in another tab. It's empty. I think I want to keep that. In fact, I want to talk about it before we start. So from some study sessions last week, if you were there, pardon me as I bore you with repetition, but otherwise, I can do that. There we go. Okay. So if a secret to doing the unit rate problems is to think about the word per as if it means division symbol or fraction bar, and then just go in order. If they want people per square mile, you find the people number and put it first because it comes first. Then where it's per, you put your division symbol or a fraction bar, depending on how you write it. And whatever comes second, square mile. So I have to hunt down and find the square mile. Because the problem could have asked the opposite order. There's nothing wrong logically with saying how many square miles per person. But whatever order they ask you in the problem, that's the order you do the division. So same thing with peas per rice cracker. Logically, it makes just as much sense to ask how many rice crackers per pea. It's not like one is right or wrong, but whichever order that problem gives you, then peas comes first, so get the P number, per is your division symbol, rice cracker, get that number. So do it in the order that it lists in the problem.
I have a question about that.
Sure.
I think it was on the math, like the homework where it kind of disappears the answers after you do it, but it asks you to do the unit rate. And I was wondering, it didn't like specify like which one per.
It should be specific. Let's go look real quick. So that would be there. Which one? Or do you want me to show you the multiple choice one if that jogs your memory better?
Yeah, maybe if you just show the questions, I can remember which one I was talking about. Oh, I see. Maybe I was just confused. I think I got it right in the end, but for number 9, where it
Mhm.
says what's the unit rate of people per square mile, but it says per square mile there, so
Yes. Yeah, unit rate always just means divide. So like most things, you can make it much harder than it is. Okay, so new stuff. I'm going to actually stop and restart the recording.